Dr. Eric Hibbs, he's been, I think, in education for 25 years, long time, only in New Jersey, beautiful Garden State. And essentially, he's had, I would say, a very excellent track in terms of his growth. He's been a superintendent of schools for the last 13 years, and he actually began his career as an elementary teacher. Is that correct? Which I love. I mean, I think we can all learn so much from being at the early grades and having exposure to that. And honestly, the first thing that I want to say, a main thing about Eric, is that the first time I spoke with him, and honestly, it had been someone else that had referred me to him. It was Karen, who is also a speaker today. And honestly, I was like, hey, like, let's try and see like who this guy is. First thing, his energy. Like, and I only spoke with him on the phone, but I was like, this guy, what's happening with him? Like, is he running as he's talking to me? Like honestly, I was like, I don't know, but like he has an energy that is insane. And I thought, okay, he needs to be our first keynote speaker. He needs to kick this off. He needs to wake everyone up. And on top of that, if you put that together with his sensitivity and his track record, I thought that would be very valuable for everyone. So I'm very excited to welcome you today, Eric, and the stage is yours.
Thank you very much.
Of course. All yours.
Can I steal the remote?
Oh, yeah, of course. Oh.
Can you guys hear me without this?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
It's just that the recording.
There?
Yes.
Got it. All right, so we're holding the microphone. Okay. How's everybody doing? That was quite an intro. I need to have energy now, right? So just so I have, and I'll try to keep this relatively on track. Just give me 2 seconds about your name and then what you do. Go ahead. All right, so let's talk about some goals for today, some of which we're going to talk about, some of which we're not going to solve. So we are absolutely going to enjoy thinking. We're going to have some conversations. We're going to have some discussions. We're going to try to think differently about a few things. We are definitely probably not going to reach the educational horizon or successfully design the future today, but we're going to have lots of thoughts about what we should do to get to those endeavors and those journeys. And we're going to have lots of conversations today. I want to make you work for it. So our responsibilities. When we really look at what we have to do, it really comes down to kids. It comes down to the next generation. And for us, I don't know how old you are. I am 48, soon to be 49. We are responsible for being able to design the future from a past that really isn't what our future is. So at 49 right now, when I look back at, my younger years, we had things like this, right? This is what we had. So top left, I can recall the first time I got a cable box that was actually connected to the TV. I can totally remember the first time I took $100 out of my paper route money and bought that Sony Walkman, literally right there. My mom wanted to kill me, right? The concept of a throwaway camera, right? We all had that. The Discman, the mall, the console TV, the first MP3 player. I don't know if you have this, but I literally have that one too, still in my drawer at home for saving's sake, and I think it has 7 songs on it. I'm not even kidding you. One of which is Rob Bass. It Takes Two. Totally awesome. Nintendo, the first console. We are responsible for building the future, and it's really interesting because a lot of us come from different lenses, right? But we still have that responsibility. And just because our cable box was once connected doesn't mean that we can let that stop us and in designing what we have. So I want to stop here for a sec. I've had someone challenge me recently that I'm gonna turn that challenge to you. And we're going to think a little differently today, right? So what I really want you to think about is that the concept of barriers, we're going to start here. Barriers define us, and barriers enable our success, or they ensure our failures. And we have control over a lot of these. So what I want you to do, you got to talk to somebody, right? Turn and talk, less than 2 minutes. We'll make it a minute, right? 2 types of barriers that exist. I want you to think from 10,000 feet, right? You don't have to say something specific, a specific barrier that you have. There are 2 real main types of barriers that we as human beings have in our ways, right? Go. All right, 30 seconds. Be ready to share out. All right, you'll pick on the ones you know. Let's go to the Millstone group first. 2 types of barriers. What'd you come up with?
Traditions, way it's always been done,
Okay.
the people get in the way, and then the red tape that
Okay. So you're going like the whole this is the way we've done it type barrier. Good one. Anybody have anything different? God.
You said physical and mental.
Ah, it's
Like
great.
the physical facilities, budget,
Yep.
tactile, anything like that.
Yep.
You said the mental, the mind shift, the preconceived notions, bias.
Great response. Anybody have anything different? Go ahead.
I said money on the lens of, all these amazing ideas are great, but when they're not sustainable,
Yeah.
or you can't get the resources or the
Yeah.
traffic or the people, it just turns into something, the next, hot topic. And
Yeah. If I asked you to think about a barrier from your own lens as a leader, we have coaches in here, we have supervisors, we have superintendents, we have directors, right? Obviously people in the workforce. If I asked you to think about you as a leader and the barriers that sometimes exist, right? If you thought about that question, really, for me, there's 2 types. There's the barriers that others put in my way, right? And there's the barriers that, what? That we put on ourselves, right? And it's really super interesting. Someone said that to me literally a week ago, and I always love to reflect, and I'm like, oh my God, that is so powerful. How many times do we have a constraint of what we think we have to either fight against or solve? And the reality is we spend our time as leaders a lot of times on things that don't matter because we think they should matter and because we think that we have to do something. I thought that was really super interesting. And the gentleman actually used the analogy of if you're on the floor with your face on the floor, is it you that's holding yourself down or is it somebody else? I thought that was a really interesting concept. I'm not telling you how to feel about that, but think about it and see in your own leadership how that might work for you. All right, so here's what I want you to do. You're going to take 2 minutes, and you're not going to talk to people. You are inside your notebook. You're going to write a list of the things, the big things that stand in your way, right? All the things that you either can control or can't control something big, all right? Anything big that stands in the way of you being a great coach, right? Or of you being a good superintendent, or of you being a good principal, or you being a director, or Bernat, you being, the best math person around. What are the barriers that you have that are in your way? Go. 2 minutes. Pens down when you're done. What keeps you from moving forward? What would keep you from designing the educational future that you want for your districts in any way, shape, or form? If you would ask me this question, or if you would ask me this question, I would say things like Board of Education. I would say things like what we've always done, standing in the way of what we could do. I would say past practice. I would say money, right? What are some things that you came up with? What's a barrier that you have here for yourself? Go ahead.
The mindset of teachers who are resistant to change.
Great one. The mindset of teachers that are resistant to change. Totally a hard thing to overcome, right? Good. Who else? God. Good one. Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Never enough, right? Yeah, God.
I said state testing.
Okay. It's fair.
Sometimes I wish that we could just teach without that burden.
Yeah. Yep. Teach without the burden of taking a test that really gives you no data at all to go back and action for your kids. For sure. Yeah.
Just having enough knowledge to help the teachers where you want them to be, where they want them to be, so they can be comfortable
Yeah.
in their environment.
Excellent.
Sometimes they're not comfortable, and you want to help them change a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. And being comfortable to facilitate that change. That's a great answer. God.
You got me thinking earlier, it's like the expectation that you should have a solution for everything, even though there's not always a solution needed, but
Totally.
standing in front of them.
Is it Pete? That's so good, right? One of the things that we try to do and we try to practice is really listening. And I mean, I've been married for almost 22 years. I think I figured out at year 18 that feelings are feelings, and I'm not going to argue feelings anymore. And it took me a long time to realize, personally and professionally, that sometimes people just want you to listen. They don't always want you to solve the problems. Don't get me wrong. A lot of times they do, but you have to have that intelligence, emotionally to figure that out. It's a great response, Pete. Anybody else? Chris.
You get paralyzed by trying to make everyone happy.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, if you think about what you want, right? If I ask you to close your eyes and think about what you want out of your school district, or equally as important, professionally, because it's, and personally, because it's really super important to always remember that, right? Because we are people, we have goals, we want to do things in life. If I ask you to close your eyes and think about what that looks like, right? Our responsibility as leaders is to ignore everything on this list and work around it. It doesn't matter what's on your list. It really doesn't. It doesn't matter if it's time. We have the responsibility of figuring that out. It doesn't matter if it's the mindset of teachers. We have to figure out how to change that culture. It doesn't matter if it's money. We need to find the money, right? And what I've become resolute on is that while I don't have the responsibility of knowing all of the answers, I have the responsibility of finding the answers. And that's collaborative, and that means that sometimes we have to take this list that we carry around, sometimes preconceived, sometimes not, and make value judgments on what's important and who we're going to make happy. Because in the end, it's the children and the future that we're really thinking about. Great job. This struck me the other day too. Take a shot. How many thoughts does the average person do a day? Candy to the winner. It's on the table. What do you think? Who can take a shot? And I'll give you like a ballpark, right? Like a row in the ballpark, not a seat. It's not like 9 million. Like that, you'd be like a supercomputer. The average person, how many thoughts do you think? It's in the thousands range. 25,000? 10,000. Keep going. A little less. A little more than a little less. About 60. 60,000 thoughts is what you have in a given day, right? Which is pretty crazy. Now, I wrote up here some percentages. 75% of the thoughts that you have, do you know what they are? They're negative. It's a proven fact. 75% of what you think about of the 60,000 on a daily basis is absolutely negative. And you're like, no way. Stop for a second and think about it. How often are you like, woo, it's awesome. I love my drive into Hoboken. And I love being stuck behind the trash truck. It's 75% of 60,000 are negative. Now the 95 means that they're repetitive. So that means that of your 60,000, 75% are negative and they're repeating, right? So I'm only telling you this because I think as leaders, you have to actually be mindful of certain things, right? Don't have to change, just be mindful and think to yourself, am I positive or am I negative, and what do I want to be? You have that choice, but this is what innately we all are. And I think that's hysterical. And I wrote irony here because when we talk about thoughts and we talk about ideas, you have a light bulb which is so bright, yet 75% of our thoughts are negative, which are certainly not light, they're dark. So be mindful of that. Thought that was a really cool thing. So, what can we do to really think about what that educational future is and how do I design it? All right, so here's the first thing you can do, right? Coaches, you might not be hiring, but everybody else, this is the best thing you can do, right? The best thing you can do always is hire well. If you don't do this, everything else you do kind of falls along the wayside. I use RKP, right kind of people. You have to get that right kind of person. So that's really short and sweet. And if you don't do that well, everything falls apart. When Bernat makes his team, he keeps people on that team that are like-minded, that are have the ability of having intellectual conflict, that bring good things to the table. Clearly, they all have good hair and beards, right? So, language. Let's take 30 seconds, and I want you to think through the frame of what I just told you about 60,000 thoughts per day, 75% negative, 95% repeating. And I want you to talk about the value of language, why it should be positive, and why putting things into words matters. Go, 30 seconds. And then Pete can't answer.
Vernon?
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. How long have you been there?
16 years.
Yeah. 22. So you were there when Chuck was there?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, Chuck's a couple away.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I could see that.
Yeah.
I could get that vibe.
I was in Marlboro. I sent to Freehold Regional.
Okay.
Okay.
So
Yep.
and you had Liz too, didn't you, for a while? Liz? No?
No, I don't
How
think so.
about Nicole? Did you have a supervisor named Nicole for a while?
No. Nope.
Strike it two. All right, there we go. Good times. All right, what do you think? Why is language important? What do you think? Why is our language important, especially for leading, for designing, for planning? Okay, awesome. Go deeper for me. I think you're totally right.
Back to the book, Teach Like a Champion.
Yep.
No teacher should ever introduce a lesson like, this lesson's boring today, but we gotta do it because it's one of the standards. Well, what's your class gonna say? Oh, let's do it. It sounds fun.
Yeah.
Like, it's the same way as leaders. This faculty meeting's gonna suck, guys, but let's go. I got you for the next hour. Just
Good.
sit there
Yeah.
and take it.
Yeah.
Your language sets the tone, and it's really the first couple minutes of what you say is going to set the tone for anything you're trying, any initiative
Yeah.
you're trying to push, any jobs you're trying to accomplish, any goals you're setting. It's the way you frame it.
Yeah. Good. Excellent. Thanks, Chris. Go.
Either shut off or open their mind after that first
Yeah.
setting.
Yep.
First tone.
For sure. Tone is not recoverable, right? How you make people feel is a real thing, right? It really is for a lot of people. Some people you're not going to reach. That falls into the barrier category of what can I and can I not control. I think that if you put me in a room with people, I feel like at the end they will leave and be like, that's a good dude, and I wouldn't mind having a beer with him, right? And I certainly would want to work with them, right? But there's people that you come across that will feel very differently about you, regardless of any words or language that will come out of your mouth. That's not on you, right? Language is super important because what comes out of your mouth, the ideas that you start, what we speak aloud, having the courage to speak that sets a tone for where you go, right? And we're going to talk a little bit about the cycle that we get caught in at times, but it's really super important to actually put down what you want to accomplish. All right, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a second. So that was great. Tone is a big part of that. The traditional roadmap, how does it look, right? Use the past to predict the future. Use your schema. Use what I know about the past to design the future. You can't connect forward. You can only connect backward. I won't read them all. Definition of insanity. This is the traditional map that we always do in education. We need let's use a math adoption. How do we do it? Like you have A, B, C, and D. Hey, we got to roll out a character ed program. How do we do it? A, B, C, and D, right? We want to get to a predicted outcome. And this is where we all travel. And there's nothing wrong with where we travel. Come on, give me some love here. But what if we're doing it all wrong? Right? What if we have to abandon the roads that we have traveled and we have to think of something different? Didn't it bet? All right, so we all know what's going to happen here. So Michael J. Fox is going to be, in there with Doc, and then the car is going to go off the road, and then, you got it? All right, here we go.
Hey, Doc, we better back up. We don't have enough road to get up to 88.
Roads? Where we're going, we don't need roads.
Awesome. So what if the path that we're supposed to be traveling isn't on that road? What if it's totally somewhere else? And what if we're just really stuck in that route and can't get out of it and can't even recognize that we can't get out of it, right? So, and here's a great example, right? So I don't even know what year this is. Call it 1960. What's the difference between these two pictures? Really? Yeah, one's, you're capturing information, right? But one's on a technology, one's not. Is that a new road? No, it's not a new road, right? We sometimes think that that is the new road, but that's not the new road, right? So the reality is that as leaders, it's a real simple answer. It's just really hard. So if we recognize, or at least accept, or explore, or be open to the fact that traditional paths will take you to traditional outcomes, we have to sometimes think that dreaming huge and then placing dreams into language, both written and spoken, can take us to different places. All right? It's a quote by Einstein. 10 seconds, give it a read. There's a tragic flaw here, I think. What do you think it is? Yeah. I think that if we're always looking backward at the past to predict the future, look, there's nothing wrong with having experiences, but those experiences shouldn't determine your future. You know, it's part of who you are, but not a part of the path that you have to travel. Great answer. Okay? All right, so I want you to take a sec. I've been challenged recently to think about my predictable future versus my caused future. I'll explain to you the difference. My predictable future, if you think about a line, it would look like this. It's very linear, hopefully trending upwards, right? My caused future would be something completely off of that line going to a new outcome. Take a second and talk about the difference in anything that might strike you about the predictable future, one in which you will most likely get to by just doing what you do, and then you choosing your own caused futures to get to an entirely different place without using roads. 1 minute, go. All right. I'm going to try to be true to my time, which gives me probably about 10 minutes left. So, what'd you come up with? How about this side of the room? You're not here yet. You're really right there. Predictable future versus your caused future. What are thoughts? It's kind of a hard concept, right? First time someone actually made me flesh this out, it kind of blew my mind. I was very quiet. I was very reflective. And then I realized that it's totally true. Won't always work, but there's real power here. Anything? You guys have anything? All right. So if you think about your predictable future, it's where you will get to normally. You alone can make your caused future by ignoring your predictable future and seeking out a whole different outcome. And you do that by putting crazy stuff down, professionally and personally, and then taking actionable steps to get there. I'll give you a great example. I've been writing a book for like 3 years now on digital tools and data. I think I do this really well. My book's not done. I am not putting that into my cause future and saying, finish the book by a certain time, right? We as leaders have to step out of what is predictable and actually go into the extraordinary. So think about this. All right, I'm gonna make you write, this is the last time, I promise. But this is very important. I want you to take 1 minute each. You can go personally, you can go professionally, you can go both, whatever you wanna do. If there was no limit in being either professional, in your professional career or in your personal career, what would you be able to do or what would you want to accomplish? All the barriers that you have, don't think about them. All the 75% negative thoughts, put them out right now. What would you do differently? What would you be able to accomplish, right? I want you to think crazy. Crazy would be like right now, me saying in 3 years, Washington Township Public Schools will serve every child in pre-K. Right now, we don't even have a building. Next year, I wrote this goal when I started, and I was at 19 when I started in Township 6 months ago. We're going to like 47 classrooms next year. My goal was to double. But if I want to think crazy, I want to service every kid. I want you to think like that. Regardless of the barriers or the money or the negativity or the boards of education or the principal that may not be supportive, all right? I want you to think crazy, and I want you to think big. This is not easy, but stay with me, and I want you to have some goals, all right? Some lofty ideas, all right? We've got 2 minutes from right now. Go. If nothing was impossible, think big. These are not small. Life-changing, life-altering for you, for kids, for your district. Sea changes, massive changes. What would you do? What would it look like? Get crazy. Okay. Take one of your best. Pick one. And I want you to write a similar statement to what we have right here. It should be your goal and set a time to it. Time to achieve it. Example would be, President John F. Kennedy announced before a special joint session of Congress the dramatic and ambitious goal of sending an American safely to the moon before the end of the decade. There's a goal, there's a time frame. So do that right now for one of the biggest things. Pick one that you really resonate with. And when you're done, put your pencil down so I know, please. It sounded very teachery. Another 30 seconds. Okay. Who's brave enough to read their goal? Awesome. Thank you.
So, I was at a wedding this summer with my cousin who's a teacher in Massachusetts, and
Okay.
he said that his school district is focusing on the joy of learning.
Okay.
And that kind of popped in my head of all the things that we're talking about, takes away the joy of learning. So my statement was, we'll create a school and a district where teachers and students are excited to be, that they enjoy learning, and that they push themselves to learn, do, and create more.
Awesome. By, and you would, yep, it's okay. By 2024. Yeah, exactly. Huss, what do you got?
By 2025, every school in the district will have a character program that encourages responsible behavior, but actually models what that behavior would look like.
Awesome. Good. Who else has one they can share? Anyone? God, thank you.
By the end of this school year, I want to ignite a passion in the teachers that I collaborate with that will trickle to their students to help them exceed and excel in math and ELA.
Awesome. And this is the power of language, right? You write it down and you start to go about it. It doesn't matter whether it's crazy or not, or big or not. You put it into words, words can happen. You can ignite people. You used ignite, didn't you, in there? Great word. Great job. Okay. I'm going to roll quickly here, assuming I can get the remote to work. Okay. So these are our responsibilities. We really kind of already talked about that. I want to talk about some of the big things that I've done and we've done as a team over the past few years. One of the things that's been really super important to us and to me as a leader is that we utilize systems processes. One real hard lesson that I learned right out of the gate, that any big initiative that we have has to include outcomes for all 4 levels here, right? So whether you're talking about the implementation of a math program, or whether you're talking about ST Math, or whether you're talking about a reading program, it doesn't matter. Insert here. If you don't have outcomes and expectations and training at the district level, at the admin level, at the staff level, and at the students level, you will not be productive. You might get some gains, but you will never be as productive as you could be if you had systems for all of these. As a small example, so we had tremendous online programs in Marlboro. ST Math, Achieve 3000, Math IXL, I could go on and on and on. We made sure every year that all admin were retrained on those programs, right? And I'll talk about that in a second. And the reason why is if admin can't talk about it, how can you lead teachers? How can teachers help students, right? We can't have the expectation that certain things will just happen. If you don't frame things, they will not come to be. Google. When I got to Marlboro, my tech director said, hey, do you want Outlook or do you want Gmail? And I'm like, I don't know, whatever you want to give me, right? And that turned into a journey where we all as admin took a piece of Google, this is 10 years ago, Gmail, Drive, Sheets, the whole 9 yards, and then we taught the staff everything. And that transitioned almost instantly into a Google reference district. Those are my hands. I do that all the time. Hold that for me. I'm going off camera. My philosophy as a leader is that I will always frame where we should be. Sometimes with help, sometimes without help, right? Because we have to have non-negotiables. There's 3 types of decisions that leaders make. My decision, our decision, your decision. Most rational and empathetic human beings can understand that. Most people don't want to make the calls that we make, right? But they want to know who's making the call and why. I don't ever micromanage what happens. Thank you. In a classroom. I will set expectations that if you give a common assessment, my expectation is that you will then remediate those standards that were missed for children in a way. I don't care if it's differentiated homework or if it's a do now or if it's an online program. I set the frame and then we go from there. Really super important. We got together in a room and talked about personalized learning probably about 8 to 10 years ago. This is one of the coolest experiences I've ever had. Sophia actually came in, and while we had a conversation, she drew this while we talked as about a 25-person admin team. This is all a sketch. It's actually hanging in, it's now the superintendent's, I think it's probably his office now. It was his office as the assistant, but it's probably his office now. But this is hanging on his wall right now. It was amazing and encapsulated everything that we believed in. You know, what personalized learning is. together, when we talk about dreaming big, right? We got to a point in Marlboro where we realized that everything starts with the right kind of teacher. Come on now. Give me love, right? Who uses data to inform instruction. Based upon data, we use small group instruction to help kids make gains. Then we use digital tools to support, and then kids set their own learning goals. This was happening in every classroom for every kid and every teacher, right? This is our common assessments, You may or may not have them. You may or may not use them well, right? So when you look at the arrow and you look at 5.mbta1, the example here was, can kids understand the difference, or tell me which is bigger, 0.6 or 0.60? If you had to choose greater than, less than, or equal to 0.6, circle in the middle, 0.60. No one ever likes the answer because you're afraid of being wrong, but what's the answer? They're equal, right? You know what we realized? We realized that Envision the year before said that if you add a 0 to a number, it becomes, a power of 10 exponentially bigger. And my 4th grade kids processed that into their schema, and they all got that wrong, 40% of them, right? So our data pointed that out, and then we remediated and fixed through our common assessments and through our curriculum, all at the massive level. All right? Digital tools. If we don't make things look like something, failure happens, right? So we did that as a district. We made sure that all of our online programs were retaught and retrained every year, right? A massive goal. We reached it. We retrained every 1 year. Super important. And really, I just talked about this. If admin can't talk to it, teachers won't be able to speak to it, students won't use it, and then they won't be used correctly. Okay? Bernat wanted me to do some vision statements. We actually wrote vision statements for our online programs. We took the time to make a massive goal for all of them. We kept data. One of our goals, lofty, was to actually turn all of our online tools into an online dashboard. We took the steps to do that and to action the data. And what are we doing now? Right now, Township is rebranding all of our academies. We're going to start a culinary and a VPA academy, dreaming big. We actually have the Dream Team, which is a group of teachers that is helping us redesign our learning spaces. So we are going to rebrand in every building our learning spaces. Pre-K, our goal was to double this year and then moving forward to serve everybody. In 4 months, which sounds ambitious, we wrote pacing guides, developed common assessments, and launched Link It within 4 months. It's not perfect, but it's in motion because we wrote that goal and went there. Digital tools, technology, and I just recently went to my team yesterday and I said, guys, I don't want to hear the answer of no. I want you to tell me how we can actually teach our kids how to be organized and how to have study skills, because kids don't have these, right? And I know what you're going to tell me. You're going to tell me that we can't do it with the pacing guides. I said, that's not an excuse. Take that barrier away and give me a program for next year. And that's where we're moving. So, I'm not saying I'm right, but what if I am? What if we're thinking in that loop that we can't get out of, and we have to get out of that loop and get above? All right? Thanks, guys.